Hi, I'm Daniel Leader, and for my food vlog, I made paella. Paella is a super famous dish from Spain. It's very iconic, very famous, especially for Valencia, which is where I'm staying. It's a rice dish. It was brought to Spain by the Moors, and at the time when the dish first started being made, it was used with any kind of protein, any kind of food that you could use to incorporate into the rice, which included like frogs, small birds, game, rabbit, anything that they could get their hands on. So there isn't a set ingredient that you can use. You can basically use anything that you are able to. It normally incorporates both like land animals, bird, game, poultry, or fish. The one that the recipe I used was chicken, shrimp, and chorizo. So surf, poultry, and pork. And I was really excited. It was really good. So the dish itself, I chose specifically paella as opposed to any other Spanish dish because I'm going to Valencia, and paella is Valencia's it's one of its claim to fame. It's probably the most famous dish from Valencia, from the area, and as I'm sure it's everywhere in Valencia. A saying for Valencia is that you could go 1 year, you could have a different rice dish every day of the year. So rice is very big there, and paella is a very big part of Valencia. So as far as Spain, a lot of Spanish dishes I found use saffron, and saffron is probably the most expensive spice I can think of. It's really expensive and it's kind of hard to find, and I probably could have been able to find it here, but it would have been in somewhat of a large amount, and I only needed a few threads because saffron is really, really powerful. So I ended up using actually yellow curry instead, which it's probably just as strong as saffron if you use it in the right amount, and it's a pretty good replacement. It's a substitute for it, but other than that, the ingredients were fairly easy. In fact, I almost didn't need to get any. Most of the ingredients were already here at home. I do a little cooking sometimes, so I always like to have stuff at hand, lots of spices, and the only thing I did need was the bay leaf, which that's also kind of expensive, and you don't use it for everything. So I wouldn't normally have one around. I had to get Italian parsley and chorizo. Chorizo is also something that I haven't used ever before, and it was kind of unusual. Let's see. Oh yeah. So the steps. The recipe that I'd found was a little big. It needed a lot, and I didn't have a pan big enough for it. Which paella, it's normally cooked in a paella pan, a huge pan that serves like a crowd of people. But I don't have a stove big enough for that, nor do I have a paella pan, and that much time or ingredients. Actually, the time probably wouldn't have changed. But so I cut most of the ingredients in half as far as like portion size. So it was about an onion that I had sliced and chopped to pieces, and about one full red pepper. I used these small bulbs right here. So I chopped that into pieces. I zested one lemon, crushed 3 cloves of garlic. Let's see. Crushed the garlic. It was about 1.5 pounds of chicken that I'd sliced 2 inches thick and 2 inches wide, so kind of not quite cubes, not quite strips. And I marinated them in a bowl of paprika, about a tablespoon of paprika, 2-ish tablespoons of olive oil, which I put more olive oil than the recipe would state because I love olive oil. I think that it makes everything taste better. Let's see, there was about 2 teaspoons of oregano and some black pepper as well as salt to taste. And I didn't put too much pepper, which I really like pepper, but I think I think pepper would have taken too much away from the paprika and oregano, which are like two of my favorite spices. Um, so after that, I put that in the fridge for about 30 minutes and started on the rice, which was much easier than I thought it would be. The rice tends to be very fickle, and if you overcook it, it's too mushy, and if you undercook it, it's like tiny little rocks, and it's really nasty. But and normally you have to put it in a pot and let that sit for like 20 minutes. Rice is not fun to make, even though I love rice. But this was super simple. It was just you cooked the rice, like you put the raw rice into the actual ingredients and cooked it with it, which was kind of crazy to me, but it worked out really well. So I took the rice, about 1 cup of, normally paella would be used with short grain rice, but all I had was long grain. That's another ingredient that was kind of that I didn't have at hand. And so I put that in the bottom with some olive oil. I put more olive oil than the recipe would say, but that's just because I wanted the rice to be really, really nice, really had a lot of texture to it. So you stir that up until the rice gets like a nice yellow color, and then you incorporate the garlic that you'd crushed beforehand, the Italian parsley that you chopped up, and let's see, there was that red pepper, crushed red pepper was I put more again than the recipe would state, but that's because I like spicy food, and it came out exactly as I wanted it to. It was just a little bit spicy, but not too much to set your mouth on fire. And you pour about half a quart of chicken broth into the pot and stir it up, and just put that on like medium heat for a while until it starts to boil, and you cover it. And while that was boiling, that's when you start putting the chicken, cooking that into a large pan, a skillet. And chicken takes a lot longer to cook than does beef. So you put that in first, as well as the onion. Then you toss in the red bell pepper, the lemon zest. Oh, the lemon zest went in with the rice. Then you put in the chorizo, and then shrimp, which was the last ingredient. Cooks very, very fast, so is the last thing that I added. And then once you have the meat in one pan, in the rice in the other, that afterwards, once it's all cooked and the rice has absorbed all of the chicken broth, that's when you put it out on a tray. So I made this for my family, and it came out really, really good. This is it right here. I've already eaten about a quarter of it, and it was fantastic. I plan to eat it. I'll plan to eat it all the time in Valencia.